All right, friends, here's how we kick off the 7 o'clock hour live from New York. A Fox News alert. The DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas impeachment proceedings are put on ice for a while.
While President Biden claims the courts are the ones preventing him from solving the border crisis.
Really? Peter Doocy is live at the White House. Hey, Peter.
And there's an item that is just crossing that, according to Axios, President Biden is very well aware that he's getting killed on immigration right now and is planning to try to put forward an immigration-related executive order at the end of April, at the end of this month. And that would be big because part of being president is getting sued. President Biden knows this. He put forward his student debt loan plan, even though he knew it was going to wind up in the courts, and he did. So far, he has been hesitant to color outside the lines when it comes to border policy, but it sounds like that's going to change, and he's putting out the word in this Univision interview last night.
Well, it suggested that we're examining whether or not I have that power. I would have that power under the legislation when the border has over 500,000 people, 5,000 people a day trying to cross the border because you can't manage it, slow it up. There's no guarantee that I have that power all by myself without legislation. And some are suggesting I should just go ahead and try it. And if I get shut down by the court, I get shut down by the court. But we're trying to work through that right now.
And President Biden has been on the record earlier this year saying he would have the power to shut down the border if the bipartisan Senate deal became the law, but it's not going to. So until that moment, he has just been claiming that his hands are tied forever. And his DHS secretary, who's in charge of all this, Alejandro Mayorkas, is remaining in limbo a little longer because the House that already impeached him is delaying sending the articles to the Senate. Apparently, Republicans there in the Senate need more convincing. A White House spokesman is now saying if Republicans actually believed this impeachment was so urgent for the security of the border, then they wouldn't have delayed sending it to the Senate for 2 months or now delayed it again for another week. Lays bare how baseless and devoid of substance this whole PR stunt is going to be. And there is also going to be a very rare President Biden press conference with the Japanese Prime Minister later on today, 12:30 in the Rose Garden. We don't see very many outdoor events for the president because it is very hard to keep protesters with megaphones far enough away to avoid disrupting it. So we'll see how they do today. Back to you.
Well, then, Peter, you would just have to disrupt it, just saying. Peter, so going back to your lead story about how Axios has got this thing where they're hearing that the president, despite what he said yesterday, sounds like he's considering an executive order by the end of April regarding the border. It sounds like for a while, we heard a month or two ago they were going to do that, but then border crossings went down and less big headlines. But then Joe Biden saw the polls, and it's like, I got to do something dramatic, right?
Right, and according to that story, there are a lot of folks that work here in the West Wing and in the policy shop who are concerned about the optics of shutting things down the way that the previous administration did. But if it's going to be the difference between getting another term and going back to Delaware forever, then it seems like they are going to try to see what kind of power they have at the border legally.
Right. Thanks, Peter. And here's the thing with the president. He still and his party is under the impression that when you're tough on the border, the message to Hispanics is we don't like you. I know, President. So he's going to have to talk to Univision in a way that's inclusive on Hispanics. And he's trying to point out that Donald Trump is not. He's calling them all criminals and animals. And he's not. He's calling the people that murder Lakeland Riley animals, the Venezuelans that beat up cops animals, the guys with neck tattoos and gangsters animals. People know the difference. You're putting down the Hispanic community when you overgeneralize like that.
Well, Ainsley, when he decided to do his drive-by on the border in Texas, the protesters...
It was a drive away.
It was drive away. Yeah, you're right. The protesters that were meeting the president, all of them were Hispanic. It wasn't like this massive crowd of white folks there saying, hey, secure the border. These were people that immigrated to this country legally and said, Joe Biden, you need to fix the problem. So I don't understand who's giving him polling data in the White House suggesting that Hispanic Americans are upset about him not securing the border.
Yeah, there have been more than 300 on the terror watch list while he's been president for the last 3.5 years. There were 14 under Donald Trump in all of his 4 years. Don't forget, this is Joe Biden's crisis. He decided on day one to sign executive orders to make the borders open. He was saying in the interview last night he wants dreamers to have a path to citizenship. Then he was blaming that we don't have enough officers down at the border to interview these illegals. We don't have enough people at the border with our Border Patrol people. He said we don't have enough machinery to detect fentanyl and illegal drugs. When I'm watching this, I'm thinking, then fix it.
Yeah.
Whose fault is this?
But he got rid of the machinery, all the technology that goes with securing the border, sat there and rotted because he decided to get rid of the wall. It wasn't just the wall that got destroyed when he passed that executive order saying, get rid of all of Donald Trump's action. It was the technology on the ground,
Look at this. Remember, he decided to go to the border after it was announced weeks before that Donald Trump was going.
He looked so natural.
And so a couple of weeks ago, when we had first heard that the president was considering some sort of executive order, apparently, according to this Axios article today, the current president was worried about a Trump-like lockdown and the optics regarding that. And Peter kind of touched on that. So according to this, what they're probably going to do is they're going to use the authority under Section 212F, which gives the president broad leeway with an executive order to restrict the people who come into the country, not all Hispanic people, but simply the people who are going to claim asylum, because that particular statute says you can restrict the number, and this is what Donald Trump used, of certain migrants if it can be determined detrimental to the United States. So it'll be interesting to hear the actual language about, okay, we're going to stop these people from coming into the country.
So it took him a little over 3 years to come up with some type of policy.
Right.
It just conveniently, Ainsley, it's an election year.
7 months until the election, and now he wants to change the policy. But it's too little too late. People already know what's happened. The message has already been told.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhardt. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.